Greetings metalheads and welcome to No Nonsense Metal Reviews. I'm George and today I am reviewing this rather excellent release from Deicide out on Dissonance Productions. This is a new release combining their 1995 full-length album, their third album, Once Upon the Cross, and their 1997 release, the fourth album, Serpents of the Light. Now this lovely little article here, as I mentioned, is out on Dissonance Productions. They have been reissuing quite a considerable number of back catalogues, the likes of Whiplash and Atrophy, Toxic, and now we've got Deicide. So I think this is the second of what I think is three box set issues or expanded issue packs exploring the early to mid period of Deicide's catalogue. The first compilation incorporated the Amon demo, the debut self-titled album, and then that seminal second album, Legion. This is the second article combining Once Upon the Cross and Serpents of the Light. As I've mentioned before, because I have reviewed, I think it was the Exhorder compilation, that the only issue that I have with these Dissonance Production reissues is that you don't get the full art unless you take the discs out. But that's the only niggle. The rest of it, I think these things are great because you finally get your hands on some of that material which has been out of print or ridiculously expensive and highly sought after for decades in some cases. And for me, Deicide are one of my favourite death metal bands. Absolutely love Deicide. There's a few gaps in my catalogue and they have been swiftly filled up. There'll be even more filled up when we get that third release, which I believe incorporates a live album as well, Where Satan Lives, I think. Don't hold me to that, I need to check that out, but that comes out at some point soon. So back to this wonderful article then. We've got those two albums, and we've also got an interesting little biographical in the booklet here. Gives you all the details about the recording of these albums, the release, and then some cool little photographs as well, looking grisly and grim. So, as I mentioned, Deicide, one of my favourite death metal bands. Absolutely love their classic debut self-titled album. One of the first proper death metal albums that I heard. I think at the time I was very much into Slayer, Creator, Sodom, bands like that, the more extreme end of the thrash metal spectrum. So Deicide were a little bit more of an easier transition into, easier to get along with, more palatable than the likes of Cannibal Corpse, for example, or Napalm Death. But those amazing riffs, those chugging riffs there, buzzsaw, it's just delightful. Take a look at the Once Upon the Cross album first. As I mentioned, this is the third album, and in my opinion, this album is just as good as those first two albums, the self-titled album and Legion, full of cracking old school death metal, amazing material. It's a short, sharp album. It's just over half an hour long, I think. 9 tracks in total, and we've got some absolute killers. Glenn Benton's vocals, he sounds so bestial. He sounds like a monster possessed by Satan himself, but amazing material. Title track there, When Satan Rules His World, absolutely fantastic. Kill the Christian, not very PC of course. They Are the Children of the Underworld, Behind the Light Thou Shall Rise, amazing song titles there. To Be Dead. To be honest, it's just start to finish, full throttle death. Very signature Morrisound Studios sound there, produced by Scott Burns, of course. It sounds quite similar to the style and the overall production quality of the first two albums, and of course the likes of Cancer, Morbid Angel, the other guys, Obituary, who were produced in the same studio. They all have that signature Morrisound Studios sound, and Once Upon the Cross is no exception. But overall, it is a astounding old school death metal album. If you like heavy thrash, if you like death metal, you're no doubt going to love it. Absolutely check that album out. Then we've got Serpents of the Light from 1997. And when I first heard that, which was from actually playing this album here, never heard it before, I thought, wrongly assumed, that it must have been produced by someone else, somewhere else. But no, actually it was also Morris Sound Studios' Scott Burns produced album. However, it does not sound like the production value of the first three albums at all. It sounds completely dissimilar to Once Upon the Cross. It sounds a little bit thinner, but I don't think it sounds bad at all. And I'm not sure if this is actually remastered, this box set, or this compilation here, but I think it sounds still pretty good. I've read a lot of things about this album subsequently, where a lot of people have a lot of very negative things to say about the production, either kind of crapping on Scott Burns' job or saying that the band interfered with this or did that. I don't really know how much truth there is in any of that, but I'd say it still sounds like a pretty solid album. Some great tracks on there again. Serpents of the Light, the title track, Blasted of Christ, Blame It on God, This Is Hell We're In. These are all really memorable material, memorable tracks. Slaves to the Cross, Believe the Lie, Father Bakers. It's actually a really top-notch album. It's not as good, in my opinion, as the first three, but it's still a really strong, old-school death metal album. It's not to be missed. Maybe not as good as Once Upon the Cross, no, but it's still a solid album. Definitely worth checking out. So that's my verdict on these two very, very short but very sharp death metal classics. As I say, really do love these reissues. They just keep churning out these great little items to have, really nice collector's pieces, but also just get to fill in some of those crucial gaps in the collection. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there that, just like me, you want to have the full catalogue. If you love a band, you don't really want to have gaps. So this is a really nice way of seeing to that, making sure you're up to date and up to speed. Deicide, Once Upon the Cross and Serpents of the Light, brilliant albums, do check them out. Personal favourites and recommendations from Once Upon the Cross, say When Satan Rules His World, and They Are the Children of the Underworld, particularly brilliant tracks. Then I'd probably recommend Blame It on God and probably Father Bakers, just creepy as hell. Brilliant stuff. Deicide, old school death metal, Glenn Benton sounding like a monster. What could be better? What are your opinions of this rather lovely release and these excellent albums? Interested to hear. If you're not familiar with Deicide, you're not familiar with these particular albums, definitely check out Once Upon the Cross. I'm pretty sure that will change a lot of minds and gain the band a few new fans. Thanks very much for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe as always. Check back soon for more reviews and recommendations. And take care, my friends. Stay heavy.